I'm Richard Gearhart, an intellectual property lawyer specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. I work for Gearhart Law doing marketing, not a lawyer, and I have my own startup.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, the road to entrepreneurship, where we speak with innovators, entrepreneurs, and discuss the intellectual property that makes them flourish. Tonight, we have an extraordinary guest, Christian Büttner, who is TheFatRat. Literally, he's a composer of gaming music and dance music. He's got some incredible stuff. I've listened to it. You have to hear him talk about his music and his copyright strategy.
Right. And then we have Dana Hill Robinson with Cocotique, which is very cool. It's a subscription box, which I love those. So I'm going to let her tell you all about it. And
Theresa Davis.
maybe Theresa Davis. This may have to get cut out. Okay. And Theresa Davis with Cover Me Clean. She is the queen of clean. Her product is amazing, especially if you have kids.
And before we get started, I would like our listeners to know that today we're taping in front of a live audience. Samantha is joining us. She's from Chatham High School, and she's doing an internship at Gearhart Law. So we thought we'd invite her to participate in the show. Say hello, Samantha.
Hi, everyone.
So thank you very much. We always do better when we're before a live audience. So, but before we get to our distinguished guests, I would like to start with IP in the news. And
okay, so let's talk about this.
All right.
If GoDaddy has a domain name for sale and is auctioning it off and you buy it, does that mean you can automatically use it?
That's a trick question.
That is a trick question.
So what is the answer to that trick question?
You better see if somebody has trademarked it in the class of goods you want to use, especially, but if it's a famous trademark too, then you may have just wasted a lot of money. Right.
So the author of the article points out that Frisbees was a domain name that was recently put up for auction
on GoDaddy, frisbees.com.
Frisbees.com, and I guess somebody bought it, but they didn't make it known that the term Frisbee is a trademark owned by the Whammo company. And so trademarks and domain names are closely related. And lots of times you want to check both the availability of the trade name as well as the domain name.
Right. So the author of this was Andrew Alleman, and we found it in domainnamewire.com. And I actually kind of ran into this when I looked up Fireside Directory for my startup. And I didn't buy it, firesidedirectory.com. I didn't buy it, and a troll bought it. So if you are going to look up a domain name, it's only $12 a year, buy it. And now I'm trying to get a trademark on it, and they still may be able to use it because there's something in trademark law that Richard knows about that I can't talk about because I'm not an attorney, where it's the classification you use is important.
Right. And so the interesting thing is that you could potentially use the domain name frisbees.com if you were like an accounting firm and you wanted to call yourself the Frisbees accounting firm, right? So the trademark law doesn't just register the name, it registers the classification of goods that the mark falls within. And there are 80 some classifications. And so the law is very clear that you can use the same name, but if they're in different channels of trade and they're for different types of products, then you can use the same name for two different organizations because it's unlikely that customers would be confused. Now, obviously, if you have the frisbees.com domain name and you're selling Frisbees and you're not Whammo, then you would be in trouble. But you could buy the domain name for some other purpose.
But what about, like, could you do Coca-Cola? I mean, Coca-Cola is pretty famous, right? What about if it's a really famous name?
That would probably be, so if it's a famous name, if it's a famous mark, it gets even more protection, but very few trademarks achieve famous status. Coca-Cola would be one of them. We were involved in a case recently where we were arguing against the Cognac Makers Association. And even the word cognac is not considered a famous name. It's a territorial designation from a region in France where the cognac is made. And so they have trademark rights. But the fact is that cognac, even though it's widely known, is not considered a famous name. And same thing with champagne. Now, those marks are considered strong marks because they are well known, but they're not famous marks. And so the scope of protection for a trademark depends a bit on how well known it is and how
So
well
that's
used it
why,
is.
for instance, if you go look at hair colors, you can find champagne blonde because they can use champagne for hair color, right?
Right, and that's and with the designations, there's no classification really. It's a little bit different from
I
a
didn't
trademark.
give something away there when I said that, did I?
No, you were looking at that for your mother in the nursing home, right? Who likes to color your hair, her hair. Oops, that was a
Whoops.
Freudian slip there, I guess. Anyway, enough of that. It's time to go to Richard's roundtable and get the opinions of our guests. So Christian, welcome to the show. Very nice to have you. What do you think about all this stuff? Domain names, trademarks, frisbees. Just riff on it, man.
Yeah, I find this quite interesting. Can you do you know what really makes a trademark famous? When is it considered famous?
That's a great question, and there aren't any clear guidelines. It's kind of a know it when you see it standard by that's used by the trademark office. Some designations have been trying to argue for famous status for years, yet the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board courts just decide not to give it to them.
Okay, so it's more of a subjective thing then.
Yeah, I think it's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
yeah, really interesting. Yeah, I also wonder how that ended, but it's interesting because in the beginning when you told the story, I felt like, oh my God, this is really kind of sad if you buy a domain name and you don't realize that there is a trademark on it. But it's a great workaround. I don't know if it's in the US, it's the same. I know in Europe, it's those NHTSA classes, the different classes that you can register a trademark on. So if you are in a different category, you can still save it. So that's a great workaround. So it's harder to take it away from you in that case then.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of conflicts. There's lots of there's also domain name pirates, and for example, somebody offered to sell us the Gearhart.com domain name, and they didn't even own it, right? So then we're going to go out and find out who owned it, and then charge us a fee for buying it, and like, well, so and there's lots of Gearharts out there. So
yeah, I thought it. I don't know which one it was. I think it was a German automobile manufacturer, maybe BMW or something like that. At the very beginning of the internet, I know that somebody claimed the domain before BMW had it, and then they wanted it, and then the guy who had the domain said, "Yeah, I was just keeping this for you, saving it for you." So you can have it for like 1.5 million euros. So BMW, they just took the letter and sent it to I don't know what the company the office called that's administering it, right? Yeah, what is it? And they just transferred it without any issues then.
Yeah, I was approached early in my Gearhart Law days by somebody who had the scheme that they were going to buy up all of the popular domain names from big companies in India. And he wanted to know if I wanted to help him out on that. So I dodged that bullet, thankfully.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah,
Dana, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, actually, it hits close to home. I had a situation when I launched Cocotique, and got the trademark for Cocotique, and business was running fine. And all of a sudden we get this letter, and I can't say what company it was because I'm not able to, but because of that company, we are not able, when you talk about the different classifications, we're not able to do a Cocotique cosmetic line. We can do, we can do our subscription box, gift boxes, and that's not a problem, but we cannot do a makeup line. So of course, here we are 9 years in. I'd love to do a makeup line or cosmetics line.
Of course.
But if I do, it has to be under a different name. And I have a question.
Sure.
So my question is, I was trying to, come up with a workaround. And there's DBAs. So part of the agreement was Cocotique could not be on the label. Now, what if it's the company, the new DBA, let's just say, XYZ Beauty, XYZ Skincare, but as the name, but distributed by is, sometimes you'll have to put that on the label, distributed by Cocotique. Would that be a problem? So I've been trying to get an answer to that. Do you have any insight on that?
I would say, don't do it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I mean, it's probably not the answer that you want to hear. And this is, but you're not a client, and this is not a legally privileged conversation. So I think, you really do need to talk. I just want to make sure that that's understood. But we have a similar situation with a client right now. And having that labeling is important for they're in the pharmaceutical business, and having that labeling is important. And if the best thing to do is just pick a different name for your cosmetic line.
That's what I'm doing.
But we ran into that with this show because Kenya came up with the name originally, Passion to Profit, which we loved, and it was trademarked. So we had to go scramble and say, okay, what can we use? And we came up with Passage to Profit,
which is even better.
I don't know if it's
absolutely.
I like it.
So yeah, luckily we have access to the databases, so it's easy for us to check that. But a name is important too. So.
Yeah, it has to work. First, it has to work from a marketing perspective. Right, it really does. That's the most important thing. And then you want to just make sure you're not going to get into trouble. So, Kenya,
absolutely.
What do you?
Yeah, think? I was just going to say I learned a lot today because I wouldn't have thought that way. Like I buy website names all the time when I come up with things that I think are clever, and I don't think to potentially do a trademark search first or to check into it before potentially buying a domain name. Now, one thing I think this does is it does throw a wrench in the game for all the website hustlers that are out there selling domains, because technically if you sell somebody a domain and you can't use it down the road, then it's kind of not good. So I like that we're having this conversation, because I think looking into the name search is often an afterthought and not the first thing that we do before we go and make an investment in a website name that we might not even be able to use down the road.
Right. It's a complicated process. I was just going to say companies might come up with 20 or 30 names that they think might be good to start with, and then do trademark searches and all of that. And then, it's you kind of got to go back and forth. I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I wasn't.
You looked like you were going to say something.
I always look like I'm going to say
something. Can't you say something? Say something. Anyway.
Well, no, so this is what I want to say. First of all, is TheFatRat trademarked, Christian?
It's a trademark. Yes, it is, of course.
So I want to come up with something like that for Richard, like the Ascot mascot, or I don't know, something.
The Ascot mascot.
You beats rodent.
So, but Kenya's our genius when it comes to that. So we're gonna have to put Kenya on that.
Don't put me in the animal category publicly.
I love TheFatRat. I'm glad you trademarked it. So
yeah. Well, he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
So And so anyway, speaking of smart people, maybe we should start Christian's interview, right? Because I was going to introduce him, but you just like stole my thunder. So
well, you asked me to say something.
well, I didn't know what you were going to say. Anyway, welcome, Christian, to Passage to Profit. You're the Fat Rat. And
but you're not fat, though.
You're not fat. That's true. And
in fact, I tell people, go check out our YouTube channel because we get the best looking people on this show, minus us, but the other people that come on are always really good looking.
She wants views on YouTube. That's, that's her thing.
No, but it is fun to see on YouTube the people that you've seen heard on the radio. So anyway.
Yes. So Christian, welcome to the show. You really you're an incredible composer and have created some beautiful music for gaming and also dance music too. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, how did you get started in the composing business, and where do you find your sources of inspiration? So.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Christian Büttner, aka TheFatRat, and I'm a music producer for gaming music. And my main source of inspiration is pretty much my entire life, very much my childhood, where I spent so much time playing video games simply, and also listening to classical music. So when I started music, originally I wanted to become a conductor. And when you want to become a conductor and you want to study it, there are like 300 people for one place in the university applying to it. So pretty much what you have to do is you have to learn everything that you actually learn in university, you have to learn before. So I spend like 4 to 6 hours every day learning piano, learning how to write music and all those things. But then I realized that it's not really creative enough for me, like conducting music, because you only play other people's music. So yeah, that's why I thought, okay, what would be a more creative way to make music? And I realized it would be music production. The video game aspect came in later. And it wasn't even planned. It just kind of came to me when I released my very own music. But this orchestra background is still very much an inspiration for me.
That's interesting. I guess listening to your music, I can hear how the classical elements in it. There's a fluidity to a lot of the music that I've heard, and it could be, classically inspired. How much do you think the music contributes to the gaming experience for the player?
I think that depends a little bit on the game. I think there are like more storytelling games where the music is very, very essential to actually deliver the emotion that you're having. What I also made some music for was like more competitive games. And I had a different approach there because I was playing some competitive games for quite a while. And I had this one was a first person shooter. And my brother, he had a playlist where he had like 15 different versions, I think, of this song, I love you, baby, and if it's quite all right. This song, he had like 15 different versions of it. And so I would just put on the playlist, and I realized that it was playing really good, and it was playing so much better. And then I played on my own computer where I didn't have the playlist. Without any of that background music, I played a lot worse. Huh. So when I started making music for competitive games, I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a different approach with it, which was I want to make the player play better using my music. So for example, you have this music that plays when your character dies, and you have to wait for the character to respawn. So in every music, usually always the music's very sad, right? Yeah, your character's dead, so it's just like devastating music. So I thought, okay, maybe let's do it differently, because you're already feeling bad. Your character just died, and it's a competitive game. You don't have to like point like put
make it worse.
Yeah, make it worse through the music. Right. So, but still, it had to fit. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to live like 2 or 5 seconds of like some explosion sounds and like, okay, it's bad. And then give some like magical recovering music where like, oh, cool, I still want to keep playing. So yeah, those are kind of two different aspects of music and video games, I think. So the one is like emphasizing the emotion that you have, and the other one is like, especially when it comes to competitive gaming, is like supporting the player's emotion and supporting the mindset of the player.
Well, I have to agree. So I bought a Meta headset and I've been playing in the VR world, but I haven't been gaming, but it looks like
in the living room, in view, full view of all the neighbors.
Well, we're gonna say
looking up in the sky, waving her things around, you know, people on bikes are looking at her from the
stumbling over the television.
You really want to look at this? Go ahead. I can't see you. I got my headset on.
I admire her
I don't
courage,
care.
you know.
But so what I've mostly done, Richard did a National Geographic one, which is really cool. But what I've mostly done is the exercise ones, and I cannot imagine those without music. I mean,
yeah,
you're like boxing. You're like hitting these things that explode with these baseball bats. It's really a great stress reliever. But there's a coach and there's always music, and so like you're doing it to the music, and the music keeps you going. Like you're getting tired, and it picks you up and keeps you doing it, right? So I could see how in a video game you could really tie that music into the adventure. It'd be very cool.
I think that thing could be improved, by the way, if you could include pictures of people that you want to pop and they come floating towards you.
So you can tell your partners in the video game industry that
we're giving this one away free, folks. Just remember us when you do your
some of these zombies that you're shooting have your boss's face on them or something. But
and nobody can see it, right? It's in VR.
I do think the music is a big piece, and we did listen to some of your. We went to your YouTube channel and listened to some of your short clips of the music that you put with these video games. And it really was emotion provoking for me. And it really fit well. And it made it, what I was looking at, I think was for kids or something. It was just very beautiful. And the music enhanced it amazingly. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do. We were both listening to different tracks at the same time.
We were on Zoom with each other.
But let me ask you a question. So not being like super into video games recently, so does the music really follow the story and follow the action that's happening now? From your earlier comment, if you're like dead, then something plays while you're spawning. I guess that's the term that they use.
Yeah, respawning. Yeah, exactly.
Respawning. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Where they came up with this, I don't know. But if you're in the process of respawning, then I guess you get some more stuff, and you get to live again.
Don't go too far with this.
Exactly.
And so,
yeah,
this is a clean show. And so the question is, though, is that does the music actually follow the action? And so then, and as a composer, how do you do that? I mean, because the games can go in so many different directions, right?
Yeah, so usually most of the music I'm making, I'm not making it specifically for the video game. So what I'm doing is like 99% of the time is licensing music that I already have that was not specifically written for a video game into a video game. Right. So this is my main business, is I'm just making music, and that's how I started. So basically, that's how I started as an artist. So for 10 years, I was just producing music for other artists, been on the Billboard charts, like with different artists, and did all kinds of things. And then I thought, okay, I'm just going to start my very own business, do my own artist thing. And then it blew up in the gaming community. So I just put out music myself, released it independently without a record label, which from a business side was very, very important for me. If I look at my career and my business as well, that I had no record company involved. And then it just, the gaming community, they picked it up and they used it. And so many games came to me and said like, because it was so popular in the gaming community, said, we want to license your music. So there was only one one case, which was Dota 2, one of the most popular games in the world, where they asked me to make music specifically for the game. And there you have a basically like a track list where it's like, okay, you have the title screen, you have the select your character, you have waiting for the game, and so on and so forth. And you just make music for every of those tracks, basically, for those different situations. And then the game kind of knows which situation the player is in.
Okay.
And yeah.
Well, that sounds great. So we have to take a commercial break, but we'll be back with more Christian Büttner, aka TheFatRat, right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit with my darling co-host, Elizabeth Gearhart. We are on now to the next part of our interview with Christian Büttner, aka TheFatRat. And Kenya, you had a question.
I do. I want to say first, I think it's incredible what you've been able to do without a record label, right? I saw some of your work has amassed 2 billion streams, which is bigger than some music artist records that are out there. And just curious, like, what is your creative process like, right? In terms of like how you sit, how you come up with these ideas, where the themes come from. Like, can you kind of walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, the first thing for me is just to have one idea that I really like. So I would just sit down in the studio and just make one song every day. And sometimes that goes for like 2 weeks. Sometimes it goes for 2 months. And it's just song after song after song after song after song after until I have something where like, oh, wow, this is really, really outstanding. And then I try to work with this idea and turn this idea into a song, which also sometimes may take like 1 to 2 months. So some songs I've worked on for 5 months in a row, which is kind of ridiculous if you think about it, because you end up with like 3 minutes of music. And that was one of the luxuries for me, though, having nobody else involved, because when you have a record label, when you have people around you, people get crazy when you work so long on just one single song. But since there's nobody who telling me anything what I have to do, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stay on the song until I think it's really 100% on point.
So your music is digitally produced, right? So what do you use to make your music?
I've always worked in the box, just on a laptop. So it's just a MacBook Pro with tons and tons of software and sample. And what's great today is, of course, sometimes I need like real instruments, and I just pre-produce in the computer. And then I have some people where I send it to. I'm like, okay, I want those string sections to be recorded. They record it, send me back the files. So I'm also independent from any like studio locations.
That's amazing. That's just really incredible. And billions of streams. I mean, that's also just incredible. You mentioned in the write-up provided to us before the program that you had a particular copyright strategy. And so I guess I'd be curious if you'd be willing to share that with our audience.
Yes. So what I really enjoyed at the beginning, because I worked for record companies for like 10 years, and they are very restrictive of their IP, right? So when I put out my very own music, nobody else was involved. I just let people use it for whatever they wanted to create with it. Like I didn't copyright claim it on YouTube. Also, I had some app developers contacting me, just one single guy, like, hey, I'm making this mobile game. Can I use your music? And or they were asking, how can I license your music? And was just, hey, just use it. It's for free. I don't care, because I'm making it for the art, not for the money. But what was so funny is that in the end, it was such a good business model, because after doing this for a couple of years, some fans hit me up saying like, hey, this is this huge app with like 100 million downloads. Your music is all over it. And it's like a music rhythm game where the music is a very fundamental piece of it. So I hit up the app. I was like, hey, did we ever talk about you using my music? And they were like, yeah, we have this Instagram message, which is like 2 years old, where you said, yeah, you can use the music. So I said like, hey, it's okay. That's cool. You can keep using it for 3 months for free still. You have like over 100 million downloads now. So you're pretty big now. So if you want to keep using it after those 3 months, would be cool if you would pay me something, if we could agree on a price. And they were like, yeah, of course, because we your music really helped our game to grow. And so they're licensing like dozens of my songs now. They have like 2 billion downloads in mobile games now. And I have not one of those situations, but like tons of those situations. So it's a big revenue stream for me now, is licensing my music into games, which started by letting people use it for free.
Wow.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to be said for doing it for the art, you know, and you know, focusing on the quality of the music. I mean, there's lots of composers out there, but you seem to have a special talent or knack for that. And part of the popularity is because you take that so seriously and you work at it. I mean, to spend months on a 3-minute selection, there's a level of high-mindedness and perfection there that you know seems to resonate with a lot of listeners. And so
Yeah,
I you know I think that's really great.
So you have a
yeah, and
couple
I think
things. Oh, I'm sorry. You have a couple things going on. I just wanted to point out. Sorry, I'm kind of short on time. We could talk to you about this all day, and I'd love to listen to the music on the show. But anyway, one is that you're a leader in the independent music community, expert on how technology has changed the music business. Do you coach other people at all on that, on using technology in their music business? And that's number one. And number two is you just recently released your Parallax album. You want to
yes.
talk about that too?
Well, I mean, the Parallax album, we could talk about artistic aspects of it once again. I think it's personally here, I really enjoy talking about business because it's an entrepreneur's show. So yeah, I mean, I'm doing a couple of panels now at the ADE, which is the Amsterdam Dance event. And I've been very vocal about how I'm doing things. And it's not only about the copyright thing. Very important aspect of this licensing, for example, is not having a record company involved. It's even because you have the record company for the recording and you have publishers for the composition, right? So we would have a situation where we'd have like 10 songs licensed for 1 year, each for $10,000. And on one song, there's one writer who wrote like 20% of it, which with a publisher involved who owns like 10% of those 20%. So it's like 2% of one song out of 10. So it's like 0.2%. So they're getting like $200. For me, it's like 100K, right? But this publisher has to agree to the deal. And if you're chasing a major publishing company about $200 making a deal, right? The email response time is it's like measured in decades, if you will, right? So it's really hard. so for me, it's really key on a business level to control the songs 100%, have as little people involved as possible. For example, like, you know, letting people use it for free or doing really fast licensing. So those are the main a component for me business wise, and I'm talking about this a lot whenever I talk to other producers, whenever I talk to on panels and all those things.
That sounds great. Kenya, do you have another question?
I was just going to say, I love how you're helping other creators, you know, get into this space. What are some of the challenges for creators though who are wanting to enter into this space?
Just getting used to the business side of things, because making outstanding music, it's already such a big challenge, right? So the music producers, all they think about is like, you know, new synthesizers and new compression and digital audio workstations and all those things, and then music theory, of course, and what's the latest trend and all those things. And now you also have to get involved into the business side. And a lot of people I talk to, they're like artists they're like, you know what, I'm not interested in this business side. I'm not interested in agreements. And that's always where I almost want to scream at them. You have to. This is so important for your art, for your artistic career, not only for money, but also for your art, that you control your creation. And just getting people, artists, into the business aspect of music, that's kind of the hardest part.
Yeah, I you know, it almost seems like a self-esteem issue. If you're creating something and somebody is taking it from you and you're not getting credit for it, whether it's financial credit or whatever kind of credit is meaningful, then it's diminishing, right? And you know, and if you're working with a traditional house where the response time is measured in decades, you know, trying to beat that down takes energy away from your creative time, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I, you know, circumventing all of that is what's so fantastic about the world that we're living in now, because people have direct access to large numbers of people, and then the art can be judged, you know, by them.
Yeah. And I'm working really close with my wife. She's managing me and she's running the business together with me, and we're working on something as well, which is like an academy. It's not very far at the moment, but it's really important. It's not about the business, it's just about helping other people. An academy for artists, how to run your own business so you don't have to rely on so many other people.
Where can people find that? Is there a website for
No,
that
it's not yet public. We are just working on it, but it's very, very important topic for me.
Okay, where's the best place to find you if people wanted to reach out?
Just to find me, that's just, you can find it on my YouTube channel. You can find all in the description. You find all the emails and stuff.
So I want to lighten up a little bit. So I really, really am curious to find out how you got the name TheFatRat.
I'm not sure if this is lightening up, but no, it's from my nickname. So now we're going really depressing here. Yeah, it was not. No, seriously.
We're glad you slimmed down for the show. So.
Well, it was not about fat, but the rat. It was just my nickname in school where people bullied me with. So I just use it as an online name. But in the end, I decided to wear it with pride. But when I must admit, when I started releasing my first songs as an artist, calling myself TheFatRat, I used this as an online name in video games for 10 years before. I never thought, because I was just uploading 3 songs to SoundCloud. Okay, I never thought that I would have like 10 million followers following that brand name. Otherwise, maybe I would have taken a different choice, but it was a name that always stuck with me. So yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I
that's
love
where it came
it.
from.
Well, I bet those schoolyard bullies now are taking a second thought, right? So
Yep.
Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I should send them a thank you note. Say, by the way, you have to pay if you want to use my music.
I hope they don't come with like a copyright infringement. Hey, that was my idea.
Yeah, right. So where are you located now, Christian?
I'm now located in Cyprus.
Okay.
I'm from Germany. I lived in Los Angeles for 3 years, and 6 months ago, I roughly moved to Cyprus.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining us. I can't imagine what time it is there.
Oh, it's fine. It's 7 p.m. here. It's
okay.
all good.
Great. Still plenty of time to watch Netflix. Anyway.
Yes.
Anyway, we have to take a break. I hope you'll stay with us for the remainder of the show. And you're listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, Kenny Gipson, our media maven, and also Christian Büttner, the Fat Rat, composer extraordinaire. So we'll be right back after this.
Welcome back, listeners, to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship. We have had such a fun show so far.
I think it's been great.
Great people.
I get to talk and make bad jokes. I've been having the time of my life.
But now the people that joined us, Christian Büttner, Dana Hill Robinson, Theresa Davis, of course, our media maven coach, Kenya, we're all just going to have a little chat and ask any questions that didn't get asked. But Richard and I have a special question for people too, so you can get to know them a little better. And here we go.
This was I can't take credit for this. I'm not the inventor of this question. So Elizabeth, why don't you go ahead and ask the question?
Okay, Christian, since you're our guest, you get to go first, since you know. And so the question is, who is your favorite cartoon character growing up?
Growing up, I think it was Darkwing Duck. Does anybody?
I remember
Did
that.
you know that?
I'm familiar with Darkwing Duck.
Yes. Okay. So
Yes.
I didn't even know it was called like that in the US. So yeah, but apparently it is. Yeah, I just loved it. That vampire duck that was, I think, vegetarian or vegan and just ate broccoli. Yeah.
It was funny. It was a funny cartoon.
Yeah. Really, really funny.
Kenya, who was your favorite cartoon character?
So mine was the Smurfs. I lived for
You
the
were a
Smurfs.
Smurf person?
Oh,
I
my
was a
gosh.
Smurf. I was a Smurf kid, and I had the little TV tray, and used to sit there on Saturday mornings and go crazy with the Smurfs. And they actually had really great music. Now that I think of it, in that cartoon, by the way, just think about what
Yeah.
Christian does with like the music part. But yeah, the Smurfs had quite the score, so to speak.
Yes.
Pardon the pun. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about
I guess your new radio name should be Smurf Maven or something like that.
I would totally go with Smurfette.
The Smurfette. Okay. Well, we have to be careful of trademark infringement. We have to do a search on that first.
Right. What about you, Dana? Who was your favorite?
Mine was Kimba the White Lion because I love cats. And just my first, when I was a little girl, I had a cat named Kimba, and just recently got a cat this fall, and his name is Kimba too. So, and I just love that cartoon. Yeah, it's Kimba Jr. now.
Kimba the second. Yeah.
So to
And
me,
he's a Bengal, so he's definitely the name fits him well.
oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Well,
I
mean,
love cats too.
yeah, Elizabeth
Thank you.
is a cat lady, so as our listeners well know. So.
Yeah, so we have this really strange looking cat. Her nose is about half the size of any other cat nose I've ever seen. And she's full grown.
Oh.
She's like a munchkin, and she's a strange color, and she's
With short legs, she has short legs.
short legs, and she's this what's called cream color, which is like a washed out yellow tabby. But we got her from a rescue. So I think she was bred,
Right.
but we got her from a
Oh.
rescue.
But you
group,
didn't
so-
tell the full story. So the cat we had before
that we tried to rescue
that we
from
tried
a
to
local
rescue
shelter.
had distemper and was on medication.
No, it wasn't distemper, hon. That's it. No,
Well,
it needed Prozac.
Oh my.
it did, and it
And they
bit
didn't
me.
tell
It almost killed Richard, by the
It
way.
almost
But go
killed
ahead.
Richard.
It bit me, and I was in the hospital for a week, recovering from
Oh,
this cat
no.
bite. And
Oh no.
I had not been in the hospital before, and it's like they come in at 2 a.m. and wake you up and take your blood, and then they come in at 4 a.m. and they take your blood, and it was like the worst experience. And I was like on the same floor as all the COVID patients, so
Oh my God.
that made me uncomfortable too.
So we managed to convince the shelter to take that cat back. They didn't want to.
Right,
And I told them, okay, well, then I'm going to give it to another shelter
right.
because it was.
What were the symptoms that you had? What were the
Well,
symptoms?
it bit people. That was
It
one
was
symptom.
it was a feral
Oh no,
cat.
did you have
But Richard's
oh, it was
symptoms.
oh.
It was a
What were
feral
your
cat,
symptoms?
But Richard's
Okay, but-
symptoms.
Hallucination.
His hand blew up like a balloon.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh my goodness.
I suffered from nurse annoyance syndrome because the nurses were coming in all the time and annoying me.
So yeah, so let's move on to Theresa. So Theresa, you had like a much healthier lifestyle than the rest of us. You didn't sit around watching cartoons. We talked about this yesterday, but you did have some people that you found inspiring. So who do you want to talk about?
Well, actually, I enjoyed camping. I grew up in California, so we did a lot of camping. So that was my fun.
That was
I
your
enjoy
fun.
camping.
Yeah. So who was your favorite cartoon character, Richard?
Mine was Tiny Tove.
Tiny Toe. What the heck is that?
That was in Chicago area. And
Never heard
what it
of
was,
that.
it was this, I watched this program for years and I had no idea what they were talking about. Was this little Jewish guy that would jump around and teach lessons from the Old Testament. And but it was all related to, and I'm not Jewish. So I was watching this, I was watching Tiny Tove, and you know, he was like this little fake guy.
Okay, leave it up to you.
And it was my favorite. I mean, that's just, you know.
So there's probably a lot, that was not in Seattle where I grew up, but
Yeah.
my favorite was Bugs Bunny. I mean, he was such a smart aleck. I mean, you know what? He just was so like, nobody could bother him. Like he would just turn the tables back on him. So I really admired him.
Well,
I thought he was very cool.
well, we're going to get you a life-size poster of Bugs Bunny now for your birthday coming up or maybe 4th of July. We can get one of those cardboard things and put it in the foyer.
Oh,
so
now
when
it's a
people-
cardboard cutout of Bugs
when
Bunny.
people come in, you
Just what you always wanted.
Like there's something wrong with the way his brain works sometimes. Like this is one of those times. I'm sorry.
You should get it for Valentine's Day, though.
Oh, yeah.
So
Or better
romantic.
yet, an anniversary present.
Here, dear. We know you've always wanted this. Well, I like SpongeBob as an adult. I do like SpongeBob. I confess
Yeah.
to that. So
Yes, SpongeBob they made for both the kids and the parents.
the
Right?
same thing with the Flint Stones. They were, you know, they're still good TV.
Well, I don't know if
Do you
anybody's
remember,
watched-
do you remember
go ahead.
Schoolhouse Rock? Schoolhouse Rock?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Junction, junction, what's your function? I used to love that. The music, it was the best.
And it all plays back to the music, right? It's so important.
Yes.
It really enhances the memory of like what it
Yes.
made you feel like watching it.
Yeah,
Very
we
much,
have
yeah.
an expert.
So,
we have an expert
so
there.
Christian, I was gonna say you're good for life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just these young gamers are going to be singing their music in their dreams and going into adulthood, and it's going to have an impact.
Yeah, it's kind of already happening because one of my most successful songs, Unity, it was released in 2014, and that one reached 200 million plays. And when I posted that, hey, we have 200 million plays, so many people were like, oh, this is the song of my childhood, or this is what I grew up with, and it's such nostalgic feelings when I hear the song. So yeah, that's an amazing part of my job, like
Dude, you're
creating
gonna
those
be-
memories for people.
You're going to be getting royalties forever, you know. So
That's the plan, yeah.
And your grandchildren and their children.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might change the copyright laws in the U.S., but hopefully, you know, 175 years past the life of the author. That's a real legacy.
So that is an interesting thing though. Like what country listens to your music the most? Or is it just pretty much worldwide and everybody's listening to it the same?
It's very much worldwide. And absolute numbers is still the US. It's like 16%. That's the biggest. In relative numbers, it's Vietnam. I have the highest density of listeners in Vietnam. I also have a lot of listeners in China, which I don't know the exact numbers because you don't get that much data out of China. But it's those three countries are the biggest ones. But it's very kind of evenly distributed other than that around the world.
So is your music available? I should have asked you this during the interview portion, but can I use it for like a TikTok background or like, you know how there's free songs available like on YouTube and stuff? Is that your stuff?
Yeah, you can use it. You can use it on TikTok. Like in TikTok, you have it directly. You say, hey, you just type in you search for music, you type in TheFatRat, you find like all of my songs. But you can also download it and use it, for example, for your YouTube video and just use it, and you will not get a copyright claim.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Absolutely.
Yeah. But Theresa, what were you saying, Theresa?
I was saying that's exactly what I was going to ask as far as YouTube.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
No. You can simply use it. Only the remixes don't work because there's other owners involved. But all my original songs, if it's as long as I haven't remixed somebody else's song, if it's original work, then you can use it for free.
So what if your YouTube thing becomes really famous? Do you ask people for a little bit of kickback, like not kickback, but a donation because they used your music, or do you just keep letting them use it?
No, there's a content creator on YouTube has over 40 million subscribers. He's very big in the Latin market. He had made a rap on one of my songs, which has 140 million plays. Yeah, I never asked for a kickback or anything like that.
I was gonna say those YouTube checks aren't too bad.
Yes, They work on their own already.
All right, so this has been a great discussion, but we need to get to the end.
Oh, too bad. I'm having so much fun, but
I can
anyway.
tell. You're going to be talking about this all evening, and so
Right.
am I.
Okay, so let's wrap up. Thank you for listening, everybody. I'm going to go through everybody's websites one more time, or how to find people, just in case you want to get all these people or buy their products. And Christian Büttner, it's Buttner, and he has the 2 little dots above the U. So you can find, but you just look for TheFatRat. So if
That
you
works.
go to if you go to YouTube, you find TheFatRat, and it's, believe me, I listen to this. It's definitely worth going and listening. And if you are a creator, he is so generous. You should definitely look at his music. It's amazing.
Sounds good.
And then we had Dana Hill Robinson with Cocotique. So her website is www.cocotique.com. Subscription boxes of beauty products for women of color. And everything is, she's tested it herself, and it's free shipping.
Give yourself a present.
And you can do monthly, or you can buy one-offs, obviously. And then Theresa
Put
Davis.
it on your husband's credit card.
And you can do 3, 6, and 12-month subscriptions too. A little bit of a discount.
Excellent. And then and you can also find it on Amazon too. And then Theresa Davis with Cover Me Clean. It's covermeclean.com. The next time you have to travel and sit in a dirty seat, you're going to want one of these. And if you have a kid with a car seat, you're definitely going to want one of these. You can find them on her website, covermeclean.com, also on Amazon, and they'll be coming to a Walmart site soon too.
Yeah, and I would say Teresa's got you covered.
I would call her the queen of clean. But hey, we could go all day, right? And Kenya Gipson is our media maven. Thank you, Kenya. And of course, Richard Gearhart of gearhartlaw.com. Any of your intellectual property needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's time to go. But before we sign off, I'd like to thank our guests. Wonderful show. To our listeners, thank you for listening. We'll be back again with another episode of Passage to Profit at this station. And of course, we can't forget to thank our producer, Noah Fleischman, our program coordinator, Alicia Morrissey, and our syndication manager, Mark Wilson. And we'll be back again next week with another exciting episode of Passage to Profit. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and Twitter. And remember, while the opinions rendered here are believed correct, never take any legal steps without first contacting your attorney. This is Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart signing off.